Let's talk about this. The unthinkable is actually starting to happen as liberals are actually starting to think twice and have a little panic now about President Biden. They were hoping that he wasn't going to run for a second term. That was what they all initially thought was going to happen because he told us he was going to run for one term. Remember that? Then he changed his mind. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre. She's the White House press secretary. She took over for Jen Psaki. She tweeted this the other day saying, just a reminder, to be clear, as the president has said repeatedly, he plans to run in 2024. Now, that's the most emphatic declaration yet because he kind of said it, but he didn't really make it like a declarative, I'm running for president in 2024. He's kind of like mentioned it offhandedly to like when my kids ask him the question, he kind of says it. So she has to come out and tweet it that he's actually going to do it.
They must have all gotten a talking to because they were all like kind of really avoiding that question. Like AOC was asked, like several of them have been asked. She was actually asked and she like walked all over it. So he must have been like, you guys need to quit undermining me or something. And then now she's tweeting it out emphatically like, okay, yes, he is. Right.
AOC is still not confirmed that she will support him. But yes, we've sort of been warmed to the idea. The press has picked up on little nuances where people are talking about, what, 2024 election? We're doing this? But now, okay, we have a declarative sentence. So they are doing this.
But, liberals are now throwing this out there. I mean, this was on the front page of the New York Times on Sunday. So this is the front page story from the New York Times. Biden in 2024? Many in party whisper no. And the piece dives deep. It interviews David Axelrod, of course, who is former Obama lackey David Axelrod. And let's put this up on the screen. So I'm going to read this. This is David Axelrod quoted here towards the end of this, but I'll read this. To nearly worries about age and a successor. I mean, these are in the pages of the New York Times. To nearly all the Democrats interviewed, the president's age, 79 now, but 82 by the time the winner of the 2024 election is inaugurated, is a deep concern about his political viability. They've watched as a commander-in-chief who built a reputation for gaffes has repeatedly rattled global diplomacy with unexpected remarks that were later walked back by the White House staff, and he has sat for fewer interviews than any of his recent predecessors. Now, here's David Axelrod, quote, the presidency is a monstrously taxing job, and the stark reality is the president would be closer to 90 than 80 at the end of a second term, and that would be a major issue, said David Axelrod, the chief strategist for Barack Obama's two winning presidential campaigns. By the way, the Obamas, I mean, they don't like him. They don't like Biden to begin with.
You think that?
I know that. And Team Biden, in fact, Politico, in quoting President Obama just over the weekend, are reminding all of us that President Obama said, it's just like Joe, to don't underestimate Joe Biden's ability to F something up. That's from Barack Obama.
In what context? I mean, I guess you don't need context for
that. You don't, because he has an unbelievable knack for effing things up. And so, to their point in this New York Times piece, think about the things we've covered here on the show recently.
But wait. Back that up. Who did he say that to?
I don't know. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, but so you don't know what he was saying
I can look
about.
it up. Give me a second. If you want me to look it up,
No, I don't. I want you to qualify that you think the Obamas don't like the Bidens. I didn't.
No, all you needed to look at, absolutely not. All you needed to look at was Obama showing back up at the White House and doing that little jab at him, and then hanging out in the White House, shaking hands with everyone, and basically ignoring the president in one of the saddest video clips that I've ever seen, where he President Biden wanders around the room. You think
he was dunking on him in a disrespectful way?
Yeah, absolutely. He just doesn't like him. He doesn't like him. And that's the case. I mean, it's kind of well documented. You don't need me to say it. But I think David Axelrod, being a chief Obama strategist, pointing this out, they're not happy with it. They don't like it. And frankly, they want him to step aside. I mean, he was only going to run once. Now he's not. And now he's going to run again 2 years from now, after the disaster of an administration that they've had so far. When they run the White House, they run the House of Representatives and the Senate. Go ahead.
Could you imagine the Democrats' reaction if Trump would have said we need to take Putin out of power? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine the
regime change?
What would have happened?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is that again, this New York Times piece was pointing out these gaffes recently that we've highlighted here on the show. We need to have Putin. We need to have Putin thrown out of power.
Right.
We need a regime change in Russia. Are you out of your freaking mind? Then a number of other gaffes, and then the White House staff had to walk it back and clarify. Well, he didn't really mean what he said.
Yes, yeah.
So we talked about AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was on State of the Union this weekend with Dana Bash. And Dana asked her, the president has announced he's running for president in 2024. Do you support him? Will you support him in 2024? Here's her answer.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but I think if the president has a vision, then that's something certainly we're all willing to entertain and examine when the time comes.
That's not a yes.
I believe that the president has been doing a very good job so far, and should he run again, I think that I think it's we'll take a look at it.
She closed her eyes a lot there. Can I just?
We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. I don't know who I'm gonna. I threw my support behind you. Let's kind of rack the clock a little bit here from the progressives, right? The Progressive Caucus. Like, they said they were going to support him. Yes,
but I don't want to hear her throw him under the bus, though, and say, well, we didn't get all our progressive agenda because you didn't, put it up, because she didn't push for anything. She voted along party lines her whole term.
But she tweeted a lot.
Sure. But if she's going to say, well, I can't support him because I didn't get what I wanted, when you did support him in all the sort of party line lockstep measure, then then that's just a political move.
Yeah, I agree. And so you have
and also just the way she said that, like, sorry,
go ahead.
We'll entertain his ideas. Like, it's like, we'll entertain you, Joe. We'll entertain your ideas. You just go over there and thank you. We got your ideas. You go have a seat. We'll entertain that.
Yeah. Like he's a fun old man. I have two theories. I'm of two minds of this. One, Democrats really want like someone strong, a leader. Of course, they're throwing Kamala Harris under the bus, so she's not going to be the candidate. Who are they going to put up? I don't know. I have no idea. Beto O'Rourke, maybe?
Right. Well, the interview, the New York Times piece that we referenced just right now sort of talks about the lack of a clear successor in the Democratic Party, right? And so they think that Biden is the only one who could really stop Trump. I can't get my head around that calculation any more than any new person.
I can't fathom. I cannot. I mean, I absolutely cannot fathom. When you ask, I saw a survey among Democrats who voted for Biden. Would you support, if he was up against Trump, would you support him? And they're like, no, only like 5. It was a ridiculously low number in this recent survey. I just can't find any way to say that that's actually going to happen. That he would actually support, that Trump would actually lose to Biden if he ran right now. I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm just saying I just can't believe that would actually happen.
No, but I also can't calculate how Biden would be. I do think that they need a new person. Like if the Democrats do want to go up against Trump, I don't think it's either of the people in the White House right now. I can't get down without calculation.
Okay, so we had New York Times, right? We had New York Times making their comments about this. We had AOC not fully on board. But then, of all things, we see CNN questioning Biden's mental health. Here's Don Lemon on CNN questioning Biden's mental health. Watch.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
You're asking me this question. Oh, my gosh. He's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with it. We just got back from New Mexico. We just got back from California. That is not a question that we should be even asking. Just look at the work that he does. Look how he's delivering for the American public. Look, that article that we're talking about is hearsay. It's salacious.
She can't answer the question.
You know what I think?
Well, that's
my
not
theory
to say she's
is
not doing a good job. She's deflecting like she should, right?
Yeah.
What
David,
is your
you got a theory?
My theory is
That's
that
not
if
what
you're
we care
hearing that
about.
from Dana
We
Bash, you're
care
hearing that
about
from him.
how are we going?
Go ahead.
The donors have spoken. That's what happened. The donors have spoken.
Actually, the New York Times piece that we're referencing does say that donors have lost confidence in Biden and pulled back donations to his campaign, which is interesting, right? Because are we insinuating that donors influence elections, right? The donors decide.
Oh, of course they do.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. You're not going to see these establishment newscasts coming out asking these questions if the donors did not approve it. If somebody had to approve that, because they would not do that. They stay right lockstep with the establishment. So that tells me that the establishment has shifted and they want Biden out.
So let's continue that clip with Jean-Pierre and see if she actually tries to answer. So she was avoiding the question. Let's see if Don Lemon actually pushes her on this question.
To deliver for the American people. How are we going to make their lives better? That's what the president talks about. That is his focus. And that's where we're going to continue to focus.
So no, the answer is no. I'm not going to answer that question. Is he mentally fit for office? But CNN did, if we move ahead to this Trump question, you recall when CNN did multiple segments when President Trump was president, right? And there was lots of questions about mental health, mental fitness of President Trump. CNN, I did on their New Day show, on their afternoon show, on their nighttime show. They did multiple segments about Trump's mental fitness. And the reason I bring that up is because
and his
liberals
physical fitness. Remember, we got that super fun physical summation from that doctor with the crazy hair. And it's like, he's one of the fittest people I've seen, right? It was full of sort of extreme sentences. And we all rang in on that and took that as a valid thing to be asking.
The reason I bring this up in comparison to Trump is because since this CNN interview with Jean-Pierre, lots of liberals on Twitter, how dare, I can't believe they're asking about, Biden's mental health. Like blue check liberals, how I can't believe they're asking about that. That's so impolite. How can you ask about a person's mental health? Well, when they are the leader of the free world, it's a legitimate question. And so here is CNN. Here is Jamie Raskin, Congressman Jamie Raskin on New Day on CNN being asked this question. And he talks about how important it is. He's like, but I'm separating myself from it, but I think it's important. Take a look.
Well, the 25th Amendment in Section 4 says that the vice president in the cabinet or the vice president in a body set up by Congress can determine that there's presidential incapacity for reasons physical or mental. And I think that concerns have been raised from the very beginning of the presidency about the cognitive state of the president, the emotional state of the president, and his ability to take care that the laws are faithfully executed, which is the principal job of the president of the United States. And so I don't take a position on whether or not the president currently has capacity or incapacity, but I'm taking the position that we've got a constitutional responsibility to act under the 25th Amendment to set up the body that's been called for.
Oh,
yes,
interesting.
This was a big part of the conversation, if you recall.
Jamie Raskin.
The 25th Amendment, yes. How long can we let Trump go if we don't think he's sane?
So Jamie Raskin, Democrat, by those same standards, then you would think, he's like, I'm being impartial here. I'm not going to make a comment about the president's mental health, but the 25th Amendment, it's something we should look at. It's something we should put forward, right? If by that same measure, then why wouldn't you do that for President Biden? It's an interesting question.
And I think in the same way we discussed this about Dianne Feinstein, was it? No, Barbara. Yeah. Yes, Dianne Feinstein. We talked about this recently. How many of her staffers have been saying that she struggles to keep up with the schedule she once did, and she's not as sharp as she once was. And I think we discussed this in a respectful way, but it's worth noting that the average American is in their 30s. I think 36 is the age of the average American, when the average age of a congressional representative is in their late 70s, right? And so is it comfortable or advisable for people who are much, much older to be making decisions for people who are much, much younger, people who are in their late 30s?
We don't
have this is not even the age of their parents, is the age of their grandparents, right? The average age of Congress and the president. Most people don't want their parents still making decisions for them, right? The problem is that we don't know enough people that are our age, and I'm putting myself in that even though I'm not 36, that we think we can get to the national stage right now in electability.
Well, and I was going to say, some of those people have probably had to retire their driver's license, and I think people argue for term limits. I could totally get on board with age limits. I don't feel like people that old need to be in there running this country because they have such a, like, look at all the change that has happened from when they were young, and it's like these people still hold on to these old ideals.
Yeah.
And you need new ideas constantly coming in. One
of the things that we show in our pre-show is an interview, or is President Biden. President Biden, he sits down with, he's in a Senate hearing and he's grilling Scott Ritter. We show that clip a lot on this show, right? He's chastising Scott Ritter for basically finding no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? And he's like sharp. He's like, and he's like really like articulate, and he's, firing at him. You can tell he's firing on all cylinders. And then you watch him on Jimmy Kimmel the other night. And it was really sad. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is having to like finish his sentences. And I know from being in the media for many, many years, when you see like a guest sort of struggling, you're going to try to help them a little bit, right? You're going to try to help them make their point so we can move on. Like that's what happens,
and
right?
make your guest look good.
Yeah.
Most people want to do that.
And that's what he's doing. He's trying to make Biden look good.
Unfortunately, though, the way Jimmy did it, in my opinion, didn't make him look good because he was doing it like you do it with a child. He was being very, but you did very good. You did very good with that. It's like it was more like you're not going to do that with a regular guest.
Maybe, or with maybe a president who is a bit less fragile. Do we have tape?
Yeah, let's watch this.
So
here's Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm serious. You turn on the TV, look at the ads. When's the last time you saw biracial couples on TV? When's the last time you saw the way, people are selling products. They do ads to sell products, and they sell products when they appeal to people. This generation is going to change everything. We just got to make sure we don't give up. There's an ability for us to do everything from increase the access to education, healthcare. Look what we did in healthcare. All the talk about it. I was able to reduce people's bills about $400 a month.
It has changed people's lives for the better. No question about it.
So there's a lot of major things we've done. But what we haven't done is we haven't been able to communicate it in a way that is, let me say another way.
Well, see, that's kind of perfect. Yeah, we haven't been able to communicate it.
But look how the press has changed. Mm-hmm. Look how the press has changed.
It has changed. Oh, listen, I get it.
I know you overstand it.
Could you pause it there for a second?
You overstand it.
So we'll go back to it here. We got another few seconds of this, but he makes the point that, we don't have, the press has changed. We don't have like we don't have like a mockingbird press that just like regurgitates anything we want and doesn't press us and lets us be and lets us communicate and lets us get our message out there effectively and lets us like, here's what we want to say, you take it and run with it. And that's exactly what the Obama administration had. They had an absolute stenographer-based press corps that took what the president and the White House released on press releases, and it showed up in the New York Times. So he's upset that the press is not just taking their talking points and regurgitating it on the economy. Let's listen to the rest of it.
But here's the deal. One of the things is that it's very difficult now to have even with notable exceptions, even the really good reporters, they have to get the number of clicks on nightly news. Mm-hmm. So instead of asking a question, anyway, everything gets sensationalized in ways but I'm convinced we can get through this. We have to get through it. And one of the things, look.
I'm going to take a break, and then we'll talk a little bit more, if you don't
blame
mind.
you.
I'm sorry. We have some of those commercials. We have some biracial commercials we need to show. We'll be back with President Biden.
Biracial commercials? Like, what the hell is that? I don't even know what that means.
I don't know. But it is a lot like when Trump would speak, you're like, I know where you're going with this. You're not going to bring that into a declarative sentence. There's no period on that sentence, but I can see what you're trying to say.
Well, I see it.
I
saw it with my dad.
We have to do that with our leaders.
I saw that with my dad, who was 86 when he passed away last year, and I saw. He had a stroke. He had a couple of strokes, and over the years, and you could tell. It was, it was a struggle for him to put, a cohesive sentence together.
Yes.
Hey, I'm 45. It's difficult for me to put a cohesive sentence together, but I could see it in my father, like declining over those last few years. But
also, Clayton's dad was a pretty healthy guy, all things considered. And by the time he was in his mid 80s, he needed to go to bed at 6 p.m. Yeah. Right? Like he was sleepy, would eat his dinner, and literally was like in his pajamas at 7:30 and asleep by 8:30. And I think it's worth talking about how the body, no matter how healthy it is, needs to slow down. I hate leaving the house at 9 p.m., after 9 p.m.
Yeah, when I find like we're going to go out to dinner for like some special occasion, I'm like, wait a minute, I hope that happens at noon, because maybe that's just where home.
I mean, we are,
you
okay, I want to speak for ourselves, right? But I do know that as the body gets older, you need to sleep a bit more. You get tired easily. And this is like the presidential schedule is something that I want nothing to do with. And I'm 43, right? So, yeah.
Well, and also it's kind of frustrating, too, that during when he was running and everything, when you watch him in the past, he didn't stutter, but he's declined so much that now he kind of stutters on what he's saying. So they said, oh, no, he's always stuttered. And now people defend the way he talks, saying, no, he's always had a stutter.
Wait, no,
but
that's
if you go back
true.
and watch anything
he does
before,
actually, he was clinically diagnosed with a stutter.
Yes.
And in fact, that was part of his campaign, where he had a little boy who came on his, that was on his like election materials, where a little boy who had a stutter said, oh, I'd like to tell you that I really like to see you succeed because I also had a stutter. And he's talked about this when he was running in for vice president, about how he was diagnosed with a stutter and had to get over it for public speaking. So that, at least we should give him credit for.
Well, I never saw it in any of his.
Yeah, that's easy to find. Just look at that little boy who was like embracing him for overcoming stuttering as a small child.
No, but I think so that is true. What Natalie's saying is true, but what David is saying is also true, is that now you're seeing blue check liberals, instead of talking about a mental decline, they're saying, oh, stop making fun of his stutter. It's like, no, it's two different things. If you watch his Senate hearings from 20 years ago, it's a different human being. It's a totally different human being running things now in the White House. Compare those two sound bites, and maybe we'll do it as this conversation unfolds more deeply. Maybe if Jamie Raskin wants to invoke the 25th Amendment, maybe we'll have a deeper discussion about this. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. You know, we've been banned, we've been blocked, we've been censored. That's why we started our own website, to stay connected with you for free.
That's right. So head on over to redacted.inc and make sure you're connected with us. You can sign up again at redacted.inc, not .com.